Welcome to this Python beginner course. I have included most of the essential topic. However, I will be keeping the explanation simple so that everybody can follow along. As you may know, Python is a popular and a easy to read programming language. It's commonly used in data analysis, AI, ML, web development, automation, and in many other places. Before we begin with, we need to install Python. To do Python installation, there are two options. One standalone installation, wherein you can download the Python binaries and do the installation, or you can use Anaconda distribution. The difference is that Anaconda distribution, it's an open source distribution managed by Anaconda, includes the Python and some of the popular libraries and a package manager. Then it's the tool that you will be using to install the additional libraries on top of Python. The reason why I wanted to go with Anaconda is that though it takes bit of a space, it's a single package that will cover everything that you wanted to have. That includes your Python, tools, and the libraries that you wanted to have it. I'm not going to use the Spider IDE, rather like I will be using the Visual Studio Code. But if I download the Anaconda distribution, what to do is that navigate to anaconda.com/app. Here where you will see all the tools, learning resources, and the installation package by itself. So as you see here, like it has a Jupyter notebook and the some learning resources, documentation, and the installation package by itself. All you need to do is that click on this distribution. You will be presented with this particular screen wherein like you can download the installation package. In my case, it will be Mac, so I will be downloading the corresponding installation package that I wanted to have it. I already installed, so I'm not going to install it right now. Back, click on the Jupyter. You will be presented with the online Jupyter notebook. From here, you can run most of the Python code. I'm not going to use the online Jupyter notebook, rather like I will be using my local machine. If you go back, click on the learning. Here where like you will see a lot of materials from Anaconda. Back to Visual Studio Code. Before we get started, we need to understand the difference between .py and .ipynb. .py, it's a Python file, wherein .ipynb, it's a Jupyter notebook. Basically, it's an interactive Python notebook, which is nothing but a Jupyter notebook. So let me show you the difference. So for instance, let me create a test file here. Let me just print the statement here. In order to run this, right click, run it in the terminal. You will see the result. Let me close it. Wherein the .ipynb, this is a Jupyter notebook. You will have a code and a markdown. Click on the code, paste the statement. Here where like you can execute and see the result. So the difference is that .py file you can execute in the terminal, wherein .ipynb, which is the Jupyter notebook, you can execute directly in the notebook and see the result. And that's why like most of our code we will be using .ipynb rather than the Python script. So basically Python script, you can gather all these code from your notebook and keep it in the .py file, make it as a Python file and use it. Let me close this. Now let me go to the intro again. So when we talk about Python, Python does support the object-oriented programming and the procedure programming. Procedure programming, it's nothing but using the functions to perform a specific action. Object-oriented programming, you will organize your code using classes. For instance, let me create a function here. I am creating two parameter and addition. So let me make a call to that function, get a result and print. So here like it will be asking, hey, which Python you want to use it. In Python, there are two ways you can execute the code. One, you can use the base Python installation, or you can create a virtual environment or a Conda environment. In this case, I will be using the base environment. I will come back and discuss about the virtual environment or a Conda environment in a later point in time. But as you see here, we created a function called add that takes two parameters, and we call that function and get the result, and we are displaying the result here. What is procedure? Procedure is a very similar to function. However, it does not return any value. For instance, I wanted to greet. So here like I will be passing the name. It is just going to print the greeting statement here rather than returning anything. So when we talk about the object-oriented programming, like here we created a person class, and like it has a greet method. We create an instance of that particular class and we call the greet method. Object-oriented programming, we will be using classes to organize our code. Let's try to understand the pros and cons of using Python. Python, it's great for rapid development, scripting, data science, AI, ML, and all those things. However, like C# and Java, it's a preferred language for enterprise applications. There is a reason. I will explain in a moment. So if you see here, Python, it's a dynamically typed language. However, like when it comes to the execution, it is not as fast as Java or a C#. Python best suits for data science, automation, scripting, where in Java and C#, it's largely used for enterprise application, mobile applications. The advantage and disadvantage. Python, it's very easy to learn. However, it is little slow compared to Java and C#. Python has a huge amount of open source support. That is why like in most of the data science project, you will be using Python for it. So now let's talk about the syntax. So Python, it's case sensitive. For instance, here like I am creating a variable name and another name. So both this name and this name are different because it's case sensitive. Let me run it. As you see here, I am printing both the names. The first one says Karthikeyan, the second one says Abhishek Kumar. The reason is that both are considered as two different variables. Also, Python uses indentation, wherein C# or Java uses the braces. However, Python don't want to follow that pattern, so it uses the indentation. Comment. So there are two ways you can comment. One, it's a single line comment. This is how you use it. And this is a multi-line comment. Sometimes you may need to use the multi-line comment. So let's assume that you have a data and you wanted to store the data in the computer. In order to facilitate that, you need to have a variable. So let's assume that you have a banana and you wanted to keep the banana somewhere in your house. So you will have a basket in which you can keep the banana. So something similar to that. In computer, you will have a data and you wanted to store the data. In order to do that, you need to have a variable. So let's go down. Variable look like, the variable will look like there will be a name to the variable and it will have some values. For instance, here I have a variable called a and its value is 100. So likewise, like there are different kind of values that you can store to the variable. So here, like if you see age 32, it's kind of an integer, and like I have a float and I have a string and I have a boolean. So the variable can hold a different kind of or a different type of values. So let me run it here. So again, like let me choose the base Python and then like let me print this. So as you see here, like I can store the value and I can retrieve the value. So here like I'm storing the value 32 to age, and here I'm retrieving the value here. So the naming convention, if you see, start with a letter or underscore. It can contain a number, letter, number, and underscores. So these are all the valid variables, and it is case sensitive. We already discussed about this. And likewise, like you can also get an input. For instance, here like I'm saying input of type float, and this is the input text, like input. We run this. So first it will be asking the very first number. So let me say 5 here, and then it is asking me the second number. Let me say 5 here. So what it does is that it reads those values, input values 5 and 5, and it creates another variable called sum. It does the addition and difference, product, everything, right? And it finally prints all this value. So the basic idea here is that in order to store some data into the computer, you need to create a variable. Again, remember, this is a temporary storage place. It is not going to be a permanent storage. If you really wanted to have a permanent, the data to be stored permanently, you are talking about files and database, which we are not really talking at this point. We are just talking about a temporary place to store your value. So with that understanding, let's try to understand the data type. So again, in our previous video, we discussed about a different kind of a data, right? To we have to tell the Python here what kind of data that we are dealing with, and that is where data types comes in. Let's try to understand the data type here. So as we discussed in the previous notebook, it has a int, it has a float, a string, boolean, and then it also has some special type of or advanced type of a data type called a list, tuple, set, dictionary, that we will discuss in some time. So these are all the things Python supports. So under number, you will have a int, float, complex number, and boolean, true, false, and the a sequence of string, sequence of a character, it's called a string. And a list, it's collection of data. Tuple, it's again a kind of a collection. Dictionary, it's a map, key value map. Set and frozen set. So these are all the different kind of a data types that Python supports. Right now, let's focus on the basic data type, like number, bold, sequence. Mapping and sets we will discuss in a while. So again, as you see here, I'm assigning 35, age 35, and I'm printing what is the type of this particular variable, right? So again, it says that here it says it's a float. So here it will say it's a string, here it will say it's a boolean value. So type checking, you can also do the type checking. So basically, it's a type of int, this is also type of int, both are equal, so it says true. Type mismatch, so basically, let's assume that you have an integer and then you are trying to add it with a different kind of data, you cannot do so. So that is why it will throw type mismatch error. It's a dynamically typed language, so you really don't have to specify what kind of data type the variable is. So it assigns the data type based on the value that is assigned to the variable. So for instance, here we are assigning Karthikeyan to name, and the type you are checking, it's a string. So you did not say it is a type of a string, but then based on the value assigned, it assigns the data type. Also, it's a dynamic typing. For instance, here I'm creating a var, and then assigning 10, and then I change it to string, I change it to float. You can dynamically change the type. That is what dynamic typing means. Now with that understanding, let's try to understand operators. So operators are you have two different values and you wanted to perform a specific operation. For instance, here you have a set of bananas, here you have a set of bananas, and you wanted to add both the bananas. So this is the addition, right? So addition, it's the operation here. So likewise, you can perform quite a bit of operation. So first we will have a arithmetic operation. Underneath you will have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, or whatever is that, modules, explanation, all of those. And then you will have a comparison, equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, whatever is that. And you also have a logical operators, and or not. So basically, and means, so let's assume that you have a you wanted to go to school when the school it's opened and it is not raining. So it's basically and. So school needs to be opened and it is not a rainy day, then only you want to go to a school. Or means school. So or it's like you wanted to go and play, right? So here like you will have a this friend or that friend you want to go and play, so that is like a R. So likewise it's kind of a conditional operations that you can perform. Assignments, so basically like we discussed, right, age equal to 35, like we are assigning the 35 value to the variable, so that is assignment operator. Plus equal to means like it will have a default value, some value, and then like on top of that you will be adding some additional value, subtracting, multiplication, division, right? So basically like it will have some value, you will perform a operation, and whatever the result is that you will be assigning to the variable. So now let's go back. So some samples here, like I have two variables a b, and I can perform all these operations here. Also like I have a ab, right, and then like based on which I can perform the comparison operations here. Logical operations, like this is how you do, right? So you say, hey, x equal to true, y equal to false, x and y, this is true, this is false, so you will get a false. Or means any one it's true, you will say true. Not means if it is true, say it false. If it is false, say it true, right? And assignment, if you see here, like c equal to 5 plus 2 plus equal to 2, which means that c already has 5 and you're adding 2 on top of that, so that is 7. And then like you subtract, so now c is 7, and then like you subtract 1 and then it's 6. So you already have a 6, multiply by 3, assign it to c, it's like 18. So the idea here is that it will have a some value, on top of that you will perform an action, and then like whatever the result is that will be assigned to the same variable. So that's about operation. Let's move forward and try to understand the conditional statement. So conditional statement, let's assume that you want to execute or perform an action based on a certain condition. It's where like you will be using the conditional statement. So let's think of this way. You need an umbrella in a rainy day, and you need a snow jacket in a snow day. Otherwise you can go for a swim. The way you construct the conditional statement, first you will be checking if the weather it's a rainy day, then you need an umbrella. Else if, which means that if this condition it's not true, then check this condition. The condition is that whether it's cold, then you need a snow jacket. If both the conditions are false, then you will go with this execution. You have to follow the same structure. You can only have a if statement, or you can have if else, which means that if it is a rainy day, then you need umbrella, otherwise you can go for a swimming. Or you can also have if else if and else, or you can also have multiple else if like this. So it's up to us, but the so if you see here, this one just has the if condition. So I'm setting the age, it's 20. I'm checking if the age greater than 18, then you are allowed to vote in election. So let me run this. So it says that you are allowed to vote in election. If you see here, this one has if and else. So first it checks if greater than 18. If not, it says that you are a minor and you are not eligible to vote. So here else if. So first the if conditions check. If age it's less than 13, it says child. If it is less than 18, which means that it is more than 13 but less than 18, then you are a teenager. Otherwise it says adult. So now if I run it, it says a teenager. You can also have a nested if condition. So for instance, here I'm taking an input, and then like if a number it's greater than 0, it says that it is positive, and if that number it's divided by 2, then it's a even number, or it is a odd number. So now if I run it and if I say like 5, it says that it's a positive number but it is an odd number. So likewise you can have a nested conditional statement. Now let's move forward. Let's talk about the looping. So basically like when you perform a action multiple times, you will be using the loops. So it's kind of a repeated actions, right? So whenever you do a repeated action, you will be using the loops. So there are two loops that we can talk about, for loop and while loop. So for loop, it's like when you know how many times you will be performing the action, you will be using for loop. With while loop, you do not know how many times you will be performing the action, but then like until unless a condition is met, you will be performing the action. And this is how you create a for loop. So I in range of 5. So range of 5, which means that it's 5 times, right? But the like it starts from 0. So it is going to be 0 to 4. If you calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 times, but then like it starts from not from 1, but it starts from 0, right? But if you really want to start from 1, you can say 1, but then like which means that you are skipping 0. The range it's 5, but then like you are starting from 1. It doesn't mean that it is going to print 1 through 5. It is going to print 1 through 4, but the like starting position it is going to be 1. So you can also control that. But if you want to, it's like this is the condition. Until this condition it's met, it is going to execute. So I starts from 0, so I'm printing I, and I'm done incrementing by 1. So if you see it, it goes to 1, sorry, 0, and gets increased to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when it becomes 5, it's not less than 5, so the condition is not true. So it is going to exit from the loop. Now with the loop, you can also have some controls here. Break. So for instance, here I'm executing a loop from 1 0 through 9, but then like I will be breaking the execution when I becomes 5. So the way it does is that for range it's 10. First I will become 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I becomes 5, this condition it's met, then it is going to break. Means like it will come out of the loop. Continue, it's like pretty similar to break, but then like it is not going to directly come out of the loop, but then like it will just going to skip that particular execution, right? So you want to perform the action in number of time, but the like in between you don't want to perform that particular action. That is when like you will be using continue. You can also have a nested loop. So if you see here, I have a outer loop and I have an inner loop. So first this loop will get executed. So this loop will execute 2 times, like 0, 0 and 1. And this loop, when I hit 0, this will get executed 3 times, 0, 1, 2. And then like when I becomes 1, it will again get executed. Now let me run it. So if you see here, so it is going to print 6 times, right? So when I is 0, j becomes 0, j become 1, j become 2. When I become 1, j become 0, j become 1, j become 2. Oh, so likewise we can use the for loops. Now let's move forward and talk about the advanced data structure. So we will begin with the list. So think of this way, list it's a kind of a toy box. You can add your toys, and like whenever you want, you can also take out the toys. So the way you create a list, it's like within the brackets, you can add your elements. So here I have created a list called fruits. Let me print that. So if you say print fruits, it is going to print all the elements. So these are all the ways wherein like you can create the list, empty list, and like with these element. And list means like it will break all the elements and then like create a list. Here we are using a range. We know range, like range, it's like range of 5 means 0 through 4, and then like break it. So each one will be part of the list. So when you print it, you will see that the first one it's empty and the other one has all the elements. This one like it is going to break the individual like string, it will break, and then like it will keep it as characters. Now let's see like how do we access the list elements. So here I have created a list called X with 3. So you can access it using the index. So this is 0, this is index 1, index 2. You can also use the negative index, that is from the end. So -1, this is -1, this is -2, this is -3. So if you say x of 0, which is this, x of minus 1, which is this, x of minus 2, which is this. So if you run it, it is going to print that. You can also modify. So like I created a list called 1 2 3 and print, and the I setting, like updating the uh, index of 1 to 20. Now instead of 1 2 3, it will be 123. And append means add additional element. Delete means like delete the existing element. Pop means like remove the last element. In this case, this is going to be this. Just remove that, print that. And remove by value also, you can remove that. So if you see this first one, it's 1 2 3. 2, it's replaced by 20 and added a one more. And like we removed the first element, and then we did a pop. 4, it's gone now. And then we also removed 20, which we only have a 3 remaining. It's some methods, so you can sort, reverse, copy to another list. So now let's see how do we slice the list. So the structure, it's going to be starting index colon end index and then step. So here I have a list called A that has 6 elements, 0 through 5. So starting index 1, I'm slicing it by starting index 1, ending index 4. So ending index are always excluded. So starting index it's included, ending index it's excluded. So starting index 1 means 1, ending index 4, this is 4, so that is excluded. So it is going to return 1 2 3. So here there is no starting index, which means that default it's 0, but then there is a end index 3, so it is going to 0 1 2. So here we see everything, but the step it's 2, so it will start from 0, consider all the elements, but then it will skip uh, the second element, right? So 0 and 2 and then 4, it will skip because the step it's not 1, step it's 2. If you say step it's 1, then it is going to return everything, but if you say step it's 2, it is going to skip. We can also iterate over the list. So here let's say I have a list of maybe let me create a list called num, and then if you want to print, then this is how you do it, right? So what we are saying is that for value in nums, for each element in nums list, print that. So this is how you iterate over the list. List also has some comprehensions. I am not going to discuss on that right now. Let's move forward. You can also have a nested list. So if you see this is one list and this is the another list. We are putting both the list into the matrix, right? So it's kind of a two toy boxes, putting it into the bigger box. So likewise we can use the list. Now let's move forward, discuss about the dictionary here. So dictionary, it's pretty much similar to the list, except that each element will have a label. So let's say you have a toy box and you keep all your toys, but these toys will have a name. Whenever you want to take a toy, you can say, hey, I need a car, then you will get a car, right? So that is the dictionary. Basically how you will have a name and the value. So to create a dictionary, you will use this is how you create a dictionary, or you will use the braces. For list we have used brackets, but for dictionary we will be using the braces. So we create a dictionary called person. It has two elements, name and age. Name it's Alice, and then age it's 25. You can also create a empty dictionary. You can access the element by the key. Also you can also modify the dictionary. For instance, here we set the age it's 25, we are changing the age to 26. We are adding the new key here, and then we are deleting the existing element by using the key. We can also pop the last element. So provides some of the useful methods. For instance, here I am creating a dictionary with two elements. So the keys will return all the keys, values will return all the values, items, it will return the key pair, right? So then you can use the for loop to loop through all the items, and you can also update the uh, item, right? So add or update, you can very well do that. You can also clear all the elements. Set, it's a pretty similar to list, except that you cannot have the duplicate item. So the way you create the set, it's pretty similar to dictionary. You will be using the braces, but like there is not going to be a key value pair. It's just going to be the element. You can create a set like this or like this. You can also create a empty set. There is also going to be a frozen set. Frozen set in the sense like once the set is created, you cannot do anything. You will just have the set, access the element, and that's about it. If you want to if you want to make a addition, like some kind of a manipulation, you have to recreate the frozen set. So you can also add the element, remove the element, discard the element, pop the element out of it, right? So that's about the set. Then, so now let's talk about tuple. So tuple, it's think of this way. You have a toy box, and when you create the toy box, you will add the toys inside that. You can access these toys, but you won't be able to change or remove these toys out of the toy box. So to create a tuple, you can create a tuple something like this. It can have a mixed element. Parentheses are optional. You can also create a empty tuple. So tuples are mostly used when we return the value from a function. So let's assume that we want to find the minimum and maximum. So instead of remember we created a function earlier to add the element, but it returns only one result, right? But here we want to return two result. So with a function you cannot return two values, but you can return a tuple. So basically it takes the sequence of numbers, then from the sequence it finds the minimum and maximum and returns that, basically it returns the tuple. And then this is going to return the tuple, and the values will be assigned to low and high, and we can print those values. So tuples are primarily used when we actually return some values from the function. Now let's talk about functions. So think of this way. Whenever you want to perform a specific set of action again and again, you can create a function. So let's assume that the Superman want to fly. He can just say fly. By saying fly, he should be able to fly, right? So basically it's a set of action that the Superman wanted to perform just by saying fly. So likewise, you want to do addition, right? So take two numbers, add the result, return the value, right? So you create a add function. So likewise, function, it's nothing but a wrapper. When you call the wrapper, the associated set of action will get executed and the result will be returned. So we already discussed what is the difference between function and a procedure. Ideally people are not saying procedure though it returns the value, it doesn't return the value, everyone calls function. So for a simplicity, I will be calling procedure as a function, function as a function, but there is a difference. So procedure do not return the value, functions does return the value. So here I define a function called flying. So when somebody calls this wrapper flying or function flying, it is just going to print this value. So I define the function, and then whenever I want, I can make a call. So I can call it a number of times, right? So how many ever times that I want, I can call it, right? So that many times it is going to say it is flying. So again functions can take parameters. Here it takes two parameters, a and b, and returns the value. So this is actually a function. This flying, it's not a function, it is more of a procedure. So this one actually takes the parameters and returns the value. As it returns the value, this is considered as a function. So what we are saying is that, so let's assume that result equal to, and let me print the result, right? You can also do this way. right? Or you can also do this way. So you can also directly call into the print, or you can get the result and print. So basically, like what we are saying is that call this function with this value, whatever comes you print, right? So functions can also have a default parameters. So here, like I have a name, and then like I say default it's a guest. So when people doesn't provide the parameter, the default will be used. So here when I say greet without providing a name, it's going to just say hello guest, but when I pass the name, it is going to use that value. You can also use the arguments. So when you do not know how many values you are going to pass, you can use these arguments. So here, like I can pass a number of parameters. Right now, like I passed 3, or how many ever I want, I can just pass it. So this is arguments, and this one it's the keyword arguments. You can also pass the keyword arguments. So here, like I can create another key value and then I can pass it. You can also very well pass this. uh, Functions, again, like it will have a return statement. That is the only difference between the function and procedures, right? So here it takes x and it multiplies, basically it finds the square root and returns the value, right? So it returns the value using the return statement. So this is, if you see this is more of a little bit of a useful function. So it takes the temperature and the unit and convert that, right? So it functions, think of this way. When you have a set of commands that needs to be executed, then you can create a function. Functions can take an input and it can return the value. And there is a special kind of a function called lambda function. So for instance, like here we create addition, it takes AB and returns the value, right? Lambda function, it's a basically it's an anonymous function. It will not have any name. So here, like if you see lambda, and then like this function takes AB and returns this value. So we define the anonymous function here, and then like whenever we call this addition with this value, this is what it will get created, right? So basically addition, it takes 2 parameter, returns this value. So exactly the same thing, but the way you create the lambda function, it's a little bit different, right? So it's called as anonymous function because like the function will not have a name, just the function pointer you will have it. So again, one more sample here. So it takes we are finding even number. So again, like lambda function, as the function takes number, we takes a number. There is a if condition, we also say it here, and returns if it is divided by 2 and value it's 0, then return that true or false, right? So lambda functions are really useful when we actually deal with the data analysis. We will come back and discuss a lot about lambda function, but just to know that lambda functions are anonymous functions. It's a quick way of defining the function without creating a wrapper around that. That's all I have for this video. We will discuss about the remaining modules in the next video. Thank you for watching.